Hey friends, I've been meaning to make this today. I was kind of busy working, but it's sort of urgent. Not to put any fear out there, but this was kind of scary. So last night I had a dream, call it premonition, of hearing people scream and people running. And I went outside in my dream, and you saw that it was a completely shadowed sky, and everyone was just running for their life, but there wasn't anywhere to really go. Um, going on in my dream state, I went on YouTube to see if anything was like had posted. Then you seen the text message alerts from the international alert system, and then it was like alerts on large speakers that I've never known we had, and it talked about how incoming incoming system, take shelter now. It was pretty scary. And then this afternoon, I took a little snooze before I had my second job to go to. And I had the same exact dream, the same exact word for word, angle for angle. And so I'm nervous. So I'll show you guys what happened. So here's Earth. And I really didn't believe this whole Nibiru, theory and Planet X, whatever. But apparently something's out there, and it is coming directly to us. And I was able to, it was weird. Like, this is the perspective I had in my dream, which was actually watching this system. It had a couple of moons, and it brought its own sun. This thing it's not, it's like a out of control, rebellious system, a binary system, or an anomaly. I don't know what you want to call it, but Earth was like really small compared to this, and it ran right into the Earth. And it was just the area of collision is probably the worst, which would essentially take out a quarter, if not a third, of the Earth. I think that's in scripture, isn't it, somewhere? But I don't know. I think where I was in the dream was right before it had collided with the Earth. It looked like it was going to hit, where you were, but because it was so large, it didn't make contact with where I was, but it took out basically a chunk of the world. It moved the oceans. Like, it changed everything. The Earth started rotating a different direction. Our poles immediately were rotating. It was almost like the Earth flipped in a matter of 30 minutes because this thing ran right over it. Hopefully this doesn't really become reality, and hopefully if so, this does, this system hopefully doesn't run into the Earth, but its magnetic push, it is strong enough to probably rotate the Earth as it's coming towards the Earth. So maybe it got so close to where the Earth just flipped around, and it brought its own sun, you guys. That was crazy. So I also had messages that this is actually the same system responsible for the following. You hear about Nemesis, you hear about the serpent, you hear about Dracon, you hear the dragon system, you hear about Nimrod, and you hear about the nomad, the land of the nomad. So in a conscious reality, it's not like, let's say, we can't say, okay, there was a walking snake guy, called the serpent, who literally walked around the earth. If we're in a third dimension, this did not happen on that plane or that ether, if you may. It happened on another plane, another ether. But in our third dimensional plane, on the same, if you had a grid, let's say you have several layers. Let's say you cut a piece of cake into different layers. The ingredients are still the same. The cake is still baked in the same oven. So while something may happen on a supernatural level in another plane, we're still active on the same grid, if that makes any sense. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. So how this is explained, I'll break this down. I just had to get this out because it's bothering me. The serpent has, and also the Dracon, or if you say Archons, anything with that con. There's even con in Star Trek, if you remember one of the villains from Star Trek. My camera cannot focus right now. So if you have the pineal gland in your mind, right? And you still have this system running around out there somewhere. Technically, essentially, sorry, the camera's not focusing. This message has to get out, though, so that you guys can co-create and help shift this from happening, because I woke up in sweaty legs that this was certain, that this was definitely going to happen, and it just came out of nowhere. No man's land. Get it? No man's land. That's where this comes from. This is the message I got. You also had Nimrod, who was a pharaoh. Nimrod knew how to hone his communication and whatnot from this system. So what's weird is, if we're in a third dimensional consciousness, you know how, like, when Mercury retrograde comes around, some people may not believe it, some people do, but I do. And there's a strange car parked behind me. So for example, when Mercury retrograde comes into effect, it goes retrograde, everyone goes cuckoo crazy, right? Full moon comes around, everyone acts a little cuckoo crazy. New moons come around, people, their behaviors change. So this is kind of like the same circumstance. You have a planetary body that has an association with these figures, and all in the mind, where there can be manipulation. If someone had adhered to, it's sort of like the whole Mercury retrograde effect. And when this system did get close to people in my dream state, people were acting like this. People weren't being themselves. People were doing vicious acts, and it scared the you-know-what out of me. So I don't know if something came into our solar system recently, but I am completely aware that something had given me this image, it given me this premonition, and it brought its own sun with it, which means that this is definitely intention of destruction, and it has a direct path right to Earth. And I know that there was some talk about some observatory in Sacramento that FBI and all these other people had allegedly, shut it down, evacuated the area. I'm not certain if this has a lot to do with it, because for people to pack their bags and just leave somewhere, it either means that there was information that had to be very private, and something had to be seen immediately and transported via digital. Like, it couldn't be handed manually, or it had to had been on lockdown and digitally transferred somewhere privately on a private network. This is all what I got from my message today. And it has a lot to do with the mind manipulation. So please pray, you guys. Stay steadfast. I'm nervous about this. I've never really had anything at this extreme before, but I will say this is an urgent message. And you might start seeing people posting something about these two guys that may have passed our son recently. But this thing is totally like dangerous. So not to put out any fear-based messages, but I'm nervous. All right, have a good night, everybody. Bye.